We're back. It's a little Shining shout out for all you Shining fans out there, little Shininglings. We're back with another reflection on the Daily Vedantic. Today's reflection is something that I've been reflecting on the last few weeks, and that is the unique relationship between America and India. There is this historical relationship, of course, where America's the fool's gold of Europe trying to get to India. And then we decided to make the best of it, create it into its own country, and became a world power. And some of the literary heroes within America, Emerson, Thoreau, Hawthorne, Whitman, these were titans of their time in establishing the shape and the direction of American literature when America had just been born. But each of these writers, they were part of the Boston Brahmins, the New Transcendentalists. These authors, this extremely stacked group of authors, all studied the Bhagavad Gita. In fact, Thoreau famously wrote in Walden, "In the early morning hours, I bathe my intellect in the cosmogonal philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita." These writers would then have an influence on none other than Gandhi. Gandhi would then obviously have an influence on not only India, but he would have an influence on the UK, the Beatles, America, MLK. And those folks would then have an untold influence on others. It was almost as if there's this reverberation happening from one continent to the other, from one country to the other, from one philosophy to the other. Some of the great minds of the 20th century. You have folks like Joseph Campbell here in the US. You have the British philosopher Alan Watts based here in the US. You have Carl Jung, who's in Europe, but heavy influence in the US, all reading Vedanta daily. You have people like Joseph Campbell, who writes Hero with 1,000 Faces and describes the hero's journey that then inspires films like Star Wars and countless others, who was the president of the Vedanta Society of New York, utilizing these Vedic, these Upanishadic themes, concepts, ideals, to where today you can watch anything from Star Wars to a Marvel movie, to the Harry Potter series, to even Lion King, with lines, dialogue, that feels like it is straight out of the Upanishads. Because of these influences behind the scenes in invisible ways that we might not even know are there, but someone like Joseph Campbell being perhaps the most influential mind when it comes to storytelling of the 20th century. In many ways, I feel like the West is still just scratching the surface, just barely getting a whiff of the wisdom within Vedanta, within the Upanishads, within that source of nearly all Eastern philosophy. But in other ways, it feels like it's all around us. As the Rig Veda says, truth is one, sages call it by many names. I'm often distracted by the thought, the question of why did it take me 30 years before I ever came across this timeless wisdom? And then I remind myself that it's been here the whole time. The truth is hiding in plain sight. I just wasn't ready to listen. But when you are ready to listen, you hear it everywhere. I have a feeling this reverberation between East and West, between America and India, is still just getting going. And that's today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Daily Vedantic. This reflection is part of a free repeating 2-year course in Advaita Vedanta.
Rooted in the timeless wisdom of the Upanishads, arguably the oldest philosophical texts on earth, you can begin with episode 1, which gives the 15-minute overview of the whole philosophy of Vedanta, or you can join the journey with any episode at any point. But the critical aspect of this course, of understanding and mastering anything, is to study and reflect, even for 10 to 15 minutes on the timeless each day, preferably at the start of your day. As is said in this philosophy, reflection is 100,000 times as powerful as listening. So listen, journal, sit with, discuss these concepts, or ask questions at thedailyvedantic.com with our AI-powered chatbot, informed by about 700 episodes here, as regularly as one can, if you want to see clarity and peace almost effortlessly unfold in your daily life. And if it doesn't result in a near immediate increase in clarity and peace, then toss aside and feel free to never listen again. One of the things that you might notice is after 7 or 8 days in a row, this doesn't feel like a discipline. This feels like a visit with a best friend to dive into the timeless with daily reflection. Within a few days, it becomes one of your favorite parts of the day. You can also find out more, including news about in-person events in Los Angeles and beyond, at the Daily Vedantic on Instagram, or through our weekly newsletter at thedailyvedantic.com. Additionally, check out the links in our show notes for more resources like the books that are mentioned most frequently in the episodes, including Vedanta Treatise, perhaps the simplest and most straightforward read on this philosophy I've ever come across. Until next time, and from the entire team that works on the Daily Vedantic project, thanks for listening.